Hey everyone, in this video we will start learning about vectors in C++. So these are objects that are going to let us hold data that we can do computations with. And so I had a video that started vectors and it somehow didn't work. So I'm re-recording this, so if there's any weirdness between this video and the next video, you can blame it on that. So we have slides that we can look at here. I guess I'll put this up here. So this is going over chapter 4 from a book by this author that I will not try to pronounce his name. So vectors are going to be very useful to us in C++. We can kind of think of them as arrays. We're going to have to set the type, but they're more useful than arrays because they're actually classes. They have methods that will allow us to just use them more easily than we might use arrays. So we have things like the pushback method, which will insert a new element at the end of the array. We can't put an element at the front with a vector. We always have to put them at the back. We can also, some other example methods are front and back. So those will give us the first element and the last element. And then there's also an erase method and an at method. We can also use the square bracket notation to get elements at certain indices. But let's actually just start off by taking a look at an example. So I will copy from public examples C++, and then we're on the comp section, and I think vector example is what we're going to look at. Oh, and we do want to copy it. So let's take a look here. So if we want to use vector, we're going to need to use this header. So this is to use the vector class. And then here we can see we're declaring a vector. So the syntax is going to be to say vector, and then in angle brackets we'll say the type. So here we have a double, or a vector of type double, and then we've got the name. If we wanted to declare a vector of ints, we'd do it like this. We'd say vector, and then we'd put int as our data type, and then maybe we called it ints, but that's just an example. So in this program, we are getting temperatures from the user, so this doubles just those temperatures that we're getting. And so in our C++ syntax here, this will keep going until temp, I guess, until user enters something that can't, I'm going to say can't be cast to a double. Because temp was a double, and so we're using cin to get input from the user, and as long as we can put that into our temp variable, then we would keep going. And then here we see, I think, our first method call of the class, where we're calling pushback on temps. So temps is our vector. It has a method pushback, so we call it using the dot notation. And we pass in, as an argument to that method, the temperature that we want to add. So this is a double here, so we can put it at the end of our vector of doubles. So call pushback method to add temp to end of vector. And then here, all we're doing is we are adding up, we're getting the sum, adding up all those temps. Oh, one thing I didn't noticed before is you can see that we initialize this to 0, because if we didn't do that, it might not be 0. It probably is usually 0, but it might not be 0. So it's good practice to initialize that to 0. We add those up, and then we call I guess we're calling the size method here. So that just gives me how many elements are in my vector. We're also calling it down here to get that average. So let's see this run. And so we would just enter some temperatures, and I'll hit Control D, and now it's printing my average. So I think this was all that I went over in the first video that got deleted. So I will just upload this, and then we go through vectors a lot more in the second video.